In these next few sessions, we're going to look at how we can help all eaters of all ages lead healthier lives while building vibrant, resilient communities. For the first of these discussions, I get to sit down with Lyndsey Waugh, the Executive Director of the Sprouts Healthy Communities Foundation. Please give her a big round of applause. So nice to see you.
It's good to see you too.
So, Lyndsey, throughout these 2 days of this summit, we are going to have a chance to hear about some exciting projects that really help kids connect to hands-on experiences that teach them about our food and agriculture systems. And you have called this kind of education really a vehicle that allows us to deliver so much more than gardening skills. What are kids learning? Can you talk more about that? What are they learning beyond how to plant something?
Sure. Well, first I'll start by saying that Sprouts Farmers Market is a purpose-driven company. And so what that means is that we have a goal of helping people live and eat better. And so we do that through the product in our stores, the way our team members show up at work every day, and then also through our foundation, through the work that we do out in the community. And so when we got involved in the school garden movement about 10 years ago, what I'll say was there was a lot of conversation about gardens being nice, or gardens being fun, or way to go, you're getting kids outdoors, that's neat. And as the Green Bronx Machine or others that are familiar with this work know, that you're not just making that exposure point, in that one moment to maybe growing a carrot or learning how to use a knife, you're really giving kids access, knowledge, confidence, and desire that shapes the way they show up as resilient little people and how they carry that into adulthood. So initially we were involved in the school garden movement because we're committed to helping kids learn how to live and eat better. But what we saw as we were on campuses more frequently and our programs took root is that school gardens weren't just influencing nutrition outcomes, they're shaping how kids connect with nature. They're shaping how kids connect with community. They're helping them build confidence and resiliency. STEM becomes alive. Academics become more fun. And so what we realized is by making this investment, we're really arming these children with what they need to move through and be successful on the school campus and outdoors as well.
Absolutely. It's growing interest in nature, as you mentioned. It's growing that interest in community, technology, the people around them, and just growing this sort of, I think, curiosity about life. I want to talk a little bit more about how we make sure that this is, throughout the lifetime, that this interest in well-being and community spans the lifetime of not just kids, but all of us.
Sure, that's a great question. When we look at healthy habits, we know that they're formed at a young age. And so I joke about this, but one of my favorite things to see is second graders with knives in their hands. Because once those kids learn how to chop their own vegetable and make their own snack, I'll tell you when they become teenagers or they go off to college, they're going to have more of that confidence to be continuing to connect and create that relationship with food.
Yeah, I've seen it in my own life with my oldest stepson who had a garden at his school, but now as a high schooler is taking all of these cooking classes and really understanding that. Do you think that there's more of an opportunity for schools to be doing that with the help of foundations like yours? How can we make it sort of that it's not just these little programs in small cities, but much wider?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's several familiar faces, I think, in this audience who are kind of arm in arm with us in this work already. But what we've found is by looking at schools as hubs for community, and then how that connects out to the neighborhood that the schools are in, and then how you connect those various neighborhoods or those nonprofit organizations that really are the experts in this school garden work so that there's an ecosystem. And what I've found, especially in a moment right now where there's a lot of uncertainty that we're seeing with funding for nonprofits or issues that we're maybe all feeling worried about, when you have that vibrant ecosystem, that's where you get the sustainability, and it becomes bigger than one student or teacher pet project. It becomes something that truly is transformative.
I'm interested in Lyndsey, hearing from you some personal stories of what you've seen. You've been, part of this foundation for a decade, right? And really learned from the people who are your fundees, your grantees. Are there any sort of particular stories you want to share?
Well, there's a lot of really good stories because I think that when you do this work, it becomes personal for each child. The goal is to have them make a lasting connection so that they see themselves in the work that they're doing. And so one of my favorite stories, and you're going to start to hear more from our foundation about the work that we're doing to lift up youth voices, and that's something we're going to be working on with Food Tank in the year ahead. But there was a young man, and he's in Birmingham, Alabama. He started out in one of the 8th grade after-school programs that we helped to fund. Very shy, lived with his grandmother. His name is Cedric. He'd be okay with me sharing a story. But when the pandemic hit, he was really isolated, and he was really worried about his grandmother.
Sure.
And, not having all the safety net resources to connect his family. And so the organization that he worked with is called Jones Valley Teaching Farm, and they operate farmland on school campuses. They teach kids, career development. They have food that goes back into the food system. And at that time, they ran a youth-led farmers market that was at their Saturday market in the neighborhood. And their funding source was that they would sell the food.
Right.
And Cedric went to the nonprofit leader, Amanda, who's a good friend of mine, and he said, here we are in the middle of a pandemic where we should be more creative and come up with ways that we can fund our work as a nonprofit because there are people in our neighborhood who can't get to the grocery store.
Sure.
And so he took that, I think, passion and that strength that he had to have a brave conversation, and what that transformed is the entire way that they operate as an organization.
Wow.
So today they have a free farm stand open to anybody that can come in from the neighborhood. They partner with a senior citizen or a senior living community across the street and help make that food available. And what I'm most proud of is that Cedric has grown to become an advocate. He's a director now at the program.
Nice.
He's in his early 20s. He's joined us as a lead speaker in other events that we've done. And I think when you see that power shift into the hands of the next generation and you feel it,
right,
that's the piece I think that makes it so memorable.
Yeah, kids teaching adults is so cool to me, and I'm all for second graders with knives for sure. That empowerment piece is what's key to all of this, though. It's again, you're not just growing food, you're not just growing the education aspect of this, you're growing empowerment and community building. Lyndsey, not every retailer has a foundation that is sort of as active as yours. What's your advice for other retailers or other companies who want to get into the philanthropy sort of side of all of this?
We're really fortunate at Sprouts that we are able to have a dedicated nonprofit arm to do this work. But anybody that's in this room or who's tuning in to study and follow Food Tank knows that any moment is an opportunity to make a connection for something that you're passionate about. And so, finding those networks, creating them, finding people online that you can tune into and help support, I think makes a difference. It can be really isolating, I think, when you're, doing nonprofit work. And so just finding a buddy and taking something on, I think, is the way to get started.
Absolutely. So we talked earlier this morning about some of the federal cuts that have been made and local food systems and making sure that schools have an opportunity to benefit from what farmers are growing locally. Do you expect, because of these recent changes, that philanthropic organizations like yours will get more attention because of the need that will be out there?
We're in a moment where the way that I view it is that we have to slow down, pause, and connect to understand what's important. And if something's important fundamentally and you believe that it's something that's worth, moving forward, then it shouldn't matter, what's happening in the broader system. And so the way that we're looking at it as an organization is paying attention to the needs of the organizations that we're supporting, listening to them, hearing, if they have funding shifts that are happening, how can we or others step in to help them continue to offer their program through challenging times. And we made it through the pandemic. And I will tell you, when the pandemic hit, school garden funding was one of the first things to get cut, and students were not on school campuses. So all those gardens went to weeds, and there was this major moment where we didn't know what would happen, but we got through it by working with our network, continuing to stay connected and focus on what's important, which is the kids that we're trying to help support.
Yeah, I really like the Sprouts sort of model of really listening to communities, working very closely with them. That's been very important to you over the years, hasn't it? Just really getting to know your grantees.
Yes, I say people either really like working with me or they don't. Because I have a tendency with my team, we view ourselves as a true partner in the work. And so what we want to do is be boots on the ground, leverage our stores. We have over 430 stores with team members that go out and volunteer. We have the awareness that we can create by telling stories through our channels. And so I think that having a partnership that becomes bigger than a donation and it becomes like a commitment to the work that you're trying to advance is what makes it feel really lasting.
Yeah, and it is lasting, and you've done an amazing job, and it's been inspiring to hear about all the work you're doing. As we sort of sum up, I've been asking almost every panel today, what's your call to action? What do you want people to do? You have retailers, you have eaters, you have farmers, you have chefs. This is a very diverse audience. What do you want these folks to take away from, learning about the work that you do?
Something that's really, really important is paying attention to your role in a moment in the movement and what's happening. And we talk a lot about youth and what it means to the next generation to have a better food system, or to pay attention to how we're caring for our planet, because these little kids are growing up. And what I would challenge everyone to do is spend time talking to a kid. If you have children in your life or children in your family or in your community, ask that second grader, what do you think about this? Tell me why. What gets you excited? How do you spark joy? Really getting them to feel that connection, because there's a lot of things that could have you feel weighted down, and kids feel it just as much as we do as adults. And so one of the things that we're leaning into as a foundation is saying, how do we have intentional ways to lift up youth voice? So we're not just saying this program's good for a child and putting them in it, we're really giving them an opportunity to share feedback and help us shape how we think about the programs that we have for them.
I love that feedback loop with kids. That's so great. Lyndsey, thank you for all of the work that you do. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for this collaboration. It means a lot to me. Thank you.